I think I'm the process. I'm the way now.
All right, and did you take a look at my feedback? Do you have any questions about the feedback from the instruments or the method section, participants, instruments, procedure?
I think everything's clear.
Okay.
I just need to have more time to resolve those mistakes, errors.
So your observations, are you finding that you're getting the information you need to answer your research questions? Are you getting good information?
Well, in one of those classes, there was just one activity about reading.
Okay.
So I didn't get a lot of information, but I think.
Are you working with each teacher, asking them? I mean, are they? I think one of the questions I had in your writing in your document was that I think you mentioned something about reading classes, and I got confused about when you mentioned reading classes and the other classes that you were observing. Like it almost sounded like when I read it that you were referring to a specific reading class. Did you? Let me pull that up because I wasn't. I think that was your document. I think that.
There's another person doing more or less the same.
Maybe I'm getting confused then. Maybe
because I don't remember that one.
Okay.
Well, before I go to observe teachers, they tell me that they will have reading activities because otherwise.
Like every day they have reading activities?
No, they tell me one day before I go if they have the next day reading activity or not, in order to get more information from a reading class that a regular.
So you go with each teacher every day and ask them, or?
No, they.
I mean, how do you know?
They call me.
They call you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In fact, today I had an observation before you.
This morning?
Yeah, this morning.
Okay.
From 7 to 8.
And they applied a reading activity?
Yeah. But she told me that she has another class from 8 to 9, I think so. So okay. I gave her the interview questionnaire. I didn't have time to ask her personally.
Yeah, you need to ask her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she didn't have time. That's why I gave her the question. No.
No, you need to ask. You need to schedule or try to reschedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I recommend everyone when you begin with the data collection process and you're choosing your teachers.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing you need to do, if you say, okay, I want to focus with these two teachers, the first thing you need to do is go back to the teachers. Okay, I'd like to plan the next 3 weeks. I'd like to have 3 class observations, 2 or 3 interviews. It may be interview if you're doing something with the students, but plan out and explain everything that you would like to do over the next 3 weeks to see again if this teacher has time or is willing and able to give you the time that you need to do all of it. Because if they say, oh, you can observe my class, but I don't have time for any interviews. Well, I'm just as an example. Then you need to decide, well, is this the person I need to observe? You know, and a key essential part of the data collection process is the interview. And the interview guide is a guide. I mean, it's not a questionnaire. There's a big difference between a questionnaire and an interview. And at this point, there's no reason to apply a questionnaire. We applied a questionnaire at the beginning to select the the participants. But once you've selected those participants, now it's observations, interviews, maybe a focus group. But that interview or those interviews are critical because that's where you have a conversation, and that's where you kind of clarify things that you observed. And I would try to get that back, or just try to reschedule at some point the interview. Now, you can decide. Some students are waiting to do the interview at the end after they've already observed 3 times, after they've completed all of their classroom observations.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the interview at the end. Some are choosing to do an observation and then decide, maybe doing one interview in the middle and then continue with the observations. It just depends on what they observe, and if there are some immediate questions or things that that you need to ask about or inquire about, you can ask and do an interview. But you have to be careful with doing interviews in the middle of the observation process, because afterwards, the observations, the teachers may know, if you're asking a lot of questions about certain things about your research, they're going to now kind of anticipate now what you're looking for, and that might change their behavior one way or the other. So you have to be careful about, if you're doing an interview in the middle, be careful about what you're asking, and not perhaps reveal too much about what you are inquiring about, so that you don't influence the teacher's behavior in subsequent lessons that you observe.
Okay.
But think about it and figure it out and see if she is or he is able to, reschedule. It doesn't have to
I
be
will try to do
today.
it today, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be today. It can be another day.
You
But
can forget the activities, right? Or the process.
well, yeah. I mean, the idea is to try to schedule it as soon as possible. But do
Yeah.
you have any more observations that you're planning with this teacher?
Yes, 2 more.
All right. So you need to decide first if you. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you had, if the interview guide was what you submitted, but
In fact, she has class from 8 to 9 just on Wednesdays, and she told me another day. Like
right.
Friday,
But my point is, I don't know if she will look at your interview guide and then kind of be influenced later on for the classes that you observe. But anyway.
I will try to observe one more time.
You need to think about if you want to do your interview at the end, or if you need to do one in the middle of your observations. I mean, that's the point here that I want to make, is you need to have a good reason for doing an interview, either way, whether you do it in the middle of your observations or at the end. It's not just, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all based on what you're observing. If you have some very immediate questions that you really need to ask about.
Is it necessary to interview after each observation?
No.
Not
I mean, there's not one way to do it. It's not necessary to do any one thing. It's when you begin the data collection process, you're constantly analyzing, you're gathering information and looking at it and say, okay, how is this information coming together? How is it answering my research questions? And looking forward to say, okay, am I, getting what I need? Do I need to make some sort of adjustment? And one of those adjustments could mean, well, I need an immediate interview because of this reason. Before I do the next observation, I really need to have a quick interview about this one little thing, not to give away too much.
Okay.
Or you might just say, no, if everything's okay, I'll just wait to the end to see how the teacher progresses over time, and then ask questions about that progression, or But it all depends. There's not one way to do it. And if you do have questions, then we need to talk specifically about the data, about what you're observing, what you're questioning, and what you're uncertain about. And I can help you with that if you want to have that conversation. But I'm not going to tell you that it's this way. You want to plan now. And this was the purpose of doing the review, the method section now, was that you were all planning more or less what you're going to do. But when you get in and start analyzing, it's going to change. I mean, it's likely it could change. And that's fine. There's no problem with it. That's why I mentioned that, if you do make changes in the procedure or in the instruments, to remember to go back to the document and make those changes. But it's important to plan, and it's also important to then adjust as needed as a researcher. This is qualitative research. It's not quantitative, where everything's planned out ahead of time. You have a control group, and a focus group, and everything is laid out, and there's no deviation from the actual process, research process. Qualitative research is different. You are adjusting and modifying as needed, as you are getting more information, as you're getting more data that supports your research questions. So that's what you need to be thinking about constantly, is looking back after you analyze, after you observe it at a class. Sit down, do a quick analysis. It doesn't have to be a deep analysis. You just kind of recall, reflect, take notes, and ask yourself, okay, when I do my interview, I need to ask about this, this, and this. Right? I'm not sure. Why did the teacher do this? Why did the students do this? What was the teacher thinking when like that? So you're preparing for the interview, and then you translate that into your interview guides before you have the interview. So you're prepared, and you look at it again. You look at your research questions. You look at your key essential questions based on your observations, and prepare yourself for that conversation, because it's a critical time. It's the time where you have face-to-face a conversation, really, where you can really get insight into it. Now, you can blow it if you're not prepared. I mean, this is like something that you really need to think about beforehand. It's not just you arrive and say, hey, let's talk. You really need to prepare yourself and ask yourself, well, what are the key questions I'm going to ask? Mm-hmm. And then figure out how you're going to do that in a way that is conversational, that is not like playing 20 questions where you just question, that it's more relaxed and that the teacher feels comfortable giving you this information, because you'll be surprised if they feel like it's pressure or whatever, they may not be willing to, to articulate or express what they're feeling or whatever. You just want it to be kind of as open and casual as possible, but that they give you the information that you need. So I would go back and think about, look at your observations that you have so far. Think about if you need to have an interview now, or if it would be better to wait at the end of all of the observations for this one teacher. And do the same for the other participants. How many other participants are you?
3.
Okay. Are they all from the same school?
No.
Okay.
They 3 work in different places.
Okay. Have you talked to the other 2 participants?
Yes, with them I don't have any trouble.
So when are you planning to observe their classes?
Well, I have observed two teachers, and the next Friday I will observe the third one.
Okay, so how many classes? How many observations have you made for, like, let's call them teacher A, B, and C? So teacher A, how many observations have you? 1. Okay, and how many are you planning on?
3. Okay.
And when are you planning on doing the other 2 for teacher A?
Next week, and the other one before we go on vacation.
Okay. And teacher B, the same, like one class per week?
The next week, 2 observations.
Okay.
And the third one, I think I will just observe twice, because it's very far away from here. It's in another municipio.
Do you think you need the third person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, more information is better, no? To get more information from another person.
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily. If you're saying that you can only observe twice, I guess my question is, are you having an interview with that person also? Yeah. And then, I mean, you're going to have 2 teachers that you have 3 observations, and 1 teacher with 2.
Yes.
And so, I'm not sure if you need the third person. So, if you think that there's a real reason to have the third person, and because you could maybe have one more interview or one more observation on the other 2 instead of having 3. So you would have more data on those 2 teachers than having less information about the 3.
Okay. So
I'm just, but unless there's something that's really
I was thinking about 3 because I consider I can get more information to grade my discussion section.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
If
I
you
mean,
recommend to
well,
have
I mean,
two,
it depends on how much. I mean, are you able to get more information? I guess my question is, can you get 4 observations out of any of teacher A or teacher
yes,
B?
yes,
So my point is, if you can get 4 observations from teacher A and B, for me,
it's better.
that's better than 3 observations from 2 and 2 observations from another.
Okay, okay.
Because it's 8. Essentially, it's the same number of observations,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's the same amount of information
Yeah.
technically, but instead of 3, it's 2 participants. Now, I'm just saying that in general, if there's something really, really interesting that this other person is doing that you really want to justify and include in your research, well, that's another story. Like if they have something very unique by the way they answered the questionnaire, or how maybe if you've had an observation. I don't know if you've had an observation yet with this person.
No.
But okay, so based on the questionnaire, if there's something that they answered in the questionnaire that was really intriguing, that you said, no, I really want to focus on this person because she said this, well, then that's another situation.
Yeah. And what do you think if I go there and I observe that teacher, teacher C, and I see, I observe the class, and after that I decide if it works or not.
Yeah, you can do that.
If it doesn't work, I
And if
will
you can still
tell the
get,
teacher,
and if you
so
can,
thank you so much. It's
yeah,
enough with this.
that's
So
fine. And if you can still go back and get 4 observations from teacher A and B,
I will ask them because I told
that's
him
the-
three
yeah.
times. Oops.
right? So that's the idea. Or you need to ask yourself as you go through this process to say, okay, am I getting enough information to answer my research questions? That's the whole the whole thing. So, you know, I'm going to leave you decide. All right. Having 2 participants is a possibility if you can get more observations,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sure you get enough information. Obviously. So I mean, and I think 3 to 4. You know, you should be able to get enough information, I would think. I mean, if they're doing, but you have to analyze that and say, okay, do I have enough information? If you need a 3rd person, fine, use it. But if you don't think you need it, I mean, there's no rule here that you have to have 3 participants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some students are having 1 participant, 1 teacher, 1 group, but it's different student groups.
Yeah.
But it's 1 teacher. So, just keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. And that's something we can talk about each week, or if you're not sure later on, once you've observed that 3rd teacher C, you can see, we can have that discussion, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not sure, but it needs to be you need to have a rationale to do either way, whether you decide 2 teachers or 3 teachers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Here, this is what I was referring to, Diego, and I mentioned this here in your document. Here's jump. You're talking about 2 teachers will participate in this research. Teacher A, who works in university, 10 students of extension, which it is a course that students from different bachelors take to improve their English ability. This is a general English course, right?
Yeah.
Just say general English course.
That's it?
I mean that's clear. Just saying in general, because you have, what type of courses do you have? You have general English, English for specific purposes, business English, content English, academic English. That's about it. I mean, those are the main categories. Mm-hmm. So I would this is fine here, but I just also mention that it's just a general English course. And then that's understood to be...
That is correct, extension, in the way you call it.
Or extension courses.
Extension courses?
Extension courses,
okay.
I would say. But still, even extension courses, we don't know what type of English course it is. Now, I mentioned here intermediate, so I would try to correlate that with the...
B1, B2?
Yeah. Whatever it is. Now...
Most of the students of that course are from Propedeutico. So, what is the level? Because I don't know the level of Propedeutico. Maybe...
Well,
B1?
it's not the level of Propedeutico. Well, it's the level of the course.
Okay.
What they should have. Because I'm assuming that, they are, yes, from Prope, but they're in that level, they're in their appropriate level. So that class, whatever that level is, that's what I would use.
Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that I have to use the European.
I would European framework,
Yeah, framework. Yeah.
common European framework.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would use B1, B2, whatever. But according to the class,
Mm-hmm.
¿me explico?
Yeah.
Okay.
According to it.
Because you were asking me about prope, but it's not so much prope. It's the because this is an extension class.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not prope.
Yeah, some of them are from prop and other are from
Right.
different.
And I'm assuming that whatever level they are in prope, they're in the appropriate level in the extension course.
Okay.
Right. So now here you say students from this course have reading classes. That's what confuses me. Because you're jumping from what I think you mean some sort of general English course,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say reading class, which sounds like you just changed the type. So then I ask, well, what type of class? What type of class is this? Is this a general class, general English, or is this a reading class?
No, it's general English.
Okay, so makes.
But
so,
in this case, I'm talking more like specifically.
a lesson maybe a lesson.
Oh.
I would say come on, the class kind of threw me. For me, I would say like there was a lesson,
I will change that.
or an activity, or yeah. I understand what you're saying, but when I read it the first time, I just thought reading class.
Every time that
Because a general English class, business English class,
Okay,
kind of confused me. So
yeah.
I would say like reading lesson. Then a lesson is a specific, what I think you mean by class, like a lesson. Yeah, so that's what I was meaning there. What else? Let me take another quick look here. Yeah, there's some changes here. Watch your grammar too. Your title, you can just include the first 5 words, so you can shorten that.
In fact, there is not a final title.
Okay.
Yeah,
So whenever you
changes.
have it, but it's not the whole title. It's only the first 5 words of the title. So yeah, just some things that you don't need, I think, to say here. And just be careful not to confuse, like this information here would be better in the instrument section, where you describe the instruments. So just take a look and let me know if you have questions about that. You can probably shorten this, single space. And this is should all be regular. There's no bold. The only thing that's in bold text are the headings. So appendix, and you need to add all of your instruments. I'm going to add a note here. You need to add a level 2 heading or title for each of your instruments. So for example, this is your teacher questionnaire. So level 2 heading will be underneath Appendix A all the way to the left, just like your participants. Just like these are level 2 headings. So
after
below
Appendix A?
Below Appendix A, all the way to the left, you'll have teacher questionnaire, and then you'll have your everything else.
Okay.
And so you'll need to check that for each instrument. So same way, Appendix B, and then to the left,
there is the
observation sheet, and so on. But get rid of all the bold text. Check your font. Make sure you use the same font.
Yeah.
And so on. Okay. So, double check your observations now. Take a look at the type of information you're getting and see if you need to focus on 2 or 3 participants. And just be careful with the interviews. Yeah. So we won't be doing any.
Maybe I was confused about the interviews because I was thinking that every interview has to be after the observation, each observation.
It doesn't have to if you feel that you need it, perhaps, but you also have to consider how much time this is taking the other teacher, and so that's why it's important to kind of present what you're thinking about and how you're going to be implementing your instruments, and then ask the teacher how they feel, if they have time to do it. Just like in this case, probably most teachers, I don't think, are going to have enough time to do an interview after every observation.
No.
I don't think. So.
At the end is better. I think so.
Well,
it depends on the information that they
it's
got.
at the better. It's better for the teacher in the sense that it's a less of a burden, less of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, am I getting the information right? And if you say, oh, I should have asked before, then that would have been clear here. Okay, well then if you have a good reason, fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean probably after every observation, right? I don't think that.
No,
but,
in fact, it's going to be difficult because we don't have time sometimes.
Yeah, so it's a balance. It's a balance between what the teacher can give you, but also making sure that you get the information. And at the end of the day, you need to have the information for your research question. So that's kind of that's the dilemma. That's kind of what you have to work out with the teachers. So double check that. This one teacher, I really don't know. You need to really kind of see take a look at what you gave her again and see if you think that it's influenced, the way she now gives the class based on what you're observing. I mean, that's that's one of the reasons why you would choose to wait at the end, so that the teacher really doesn't know exactly what you're looking for, and that the teacher's more or less teaching as normal. Of course, you're there observing, so they're going to be, conscious of that. But if they don't know exactly what you're looking for, then they're less likely to be adjusting their specific behavior based on something that you're researching, research questions. So, did you give her the one that you have here, this instrument, the interview guide that you have uploaded here, or is it a different one?
It's the same.
This one?
The questionnaire, the first one that I applied?
I don't know, the one you gave her, that you said that...
the interview?
I'm assuming that the interview guide you gave her...
Yeah. It's the appendix C. That one. So in that one I wrote some specific activities that I observed during
What
the
did
class.
you observe? Okay, so what did you observe?
What do you observe in your students
Did you
when you were
consider
playing this activity about? It was an activity about.
Can you call the person and just ask her not to fill it out, that you just want to have whenever she's available an interview?
Yes.
So she doesn't.
In fact, if she fill out the document and if it doesn't work for me, I will.
Here's the thing. I don't think I would use this.
Okay.
I don't think you can use it really as a written document. Oh. I mean, because it's designed for an interview. Mm-hmm. It's not designed to be a questionnaire. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be the only one to fill out a questionnaire. Yeah. And there's really no reason to fill out a questionnaire when you only have 2 or 3 teachers. A questionnaire is one for, if you get a lot, whatever. So I would just call it, so she doesn't waste time, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's going to feel put out, I think, if she has to fill it out. And then you ask her the same question. So you just say, look, I'm sorry I made a mistake. Please don't fill this out. Okay. Can we schedule at your convenience 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, interview? And don't even mention, because you can ask the same questions here, but you don't have to say it at the time that you're trying to arrange the meeting. Just say, can we meet again? Or, can we have an interview? And maybe you do it now at the end. Say, when I finish, do you mind whatever? But don't fill. Please don't fill out the worksheet, whatever. Just so she doesn't waste her time, right? So she doesn't.
Exactly.
And you don't. And I know. Yeah. So. Yeah. So check it out. Let me know next week how things are going. I'm not going to be here tomorrow or Friday, but I'll be back in my office on Monday. I'll be checking my emails too. So if something comes up that you want to ask about and you want to send me an email, I'll be checking. But let me know how things are going next week, either during our tutoring session or if there's something that's urgent. Like I said, like if you need to make a quick decision about something and you're not sure what to do, let me know. We can have we can discuss it. But just as I mentioned, just make sure that you're constantly looking at the data that you're getting and evaluating and saying, okay, am I getting what I need or not? So that you can finish these 3 weeks. We have essentially April 11th I'm suggesting everyone to try to finish by April 11th. That's 1 week before Holy Week. You have Holy Week if you need it, but some people usually Holy Week's a wash. Usually, I mean a lot of teachers, they don't have a lot of things going on because it's a short week and all the kids are already in holiday mode. Mm-hmm. So if you need it, fine, but try your best to get as much as you can finished before so that you're sure. If you still need a few more and you can arrange it during Holy Week, fine. But that you're sure that you have what you need by the time we take a break. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Diego?
I will have to use holiday.
Well, if you need it, fine. Yeah. But
because I have to change a lot of things in my daily review and my method section.
Yeah.
So I need it. I have a lot of mistakes about.
Well, you can plan your time however you want to plan your time, but you're gonna have a couple weeks off in April, and this time for me personally, my personal opinion, my humble opinion, the data collection period is the most critical and sometimes the most difficult. Not because of the work itself, but the scheduling, the things that come up that are out of your control. These 3 weeks, there's more things that are out of your control than in any other thing in the whole process, and that's what makes it difficult. The logistics. You got to go here, you got to go there, you got to talk to teachers. You go to a class, the school cancels class. They have a parent-teacher meeting. You didn't know about it. The teacher didn't know about it. The teacher's sick one day. This happens. I mean, stuff happens. And those things are out of your control. Sometimes they're out of the teacher's control. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, I wouldn't, if you need to get things cleaned up here, but you don't want to spend too much time on that if it's interfering with the time that you need to observe, because you really need to, it's almost virtually impossible. In fact, it's for all practical purposes impossible really to do anything with data collection after break, because you only have 2 weeks when you come back. We're going to have May 5th. When we come back from break, we just have a couple of weeks to finish the last half of your thesis. So, just plan your time accordingly and try not to, make sure you're allowing enough time to get the data that you need.
Yeah.
And that's why I would try to schedule with all the teachers, try to schedule all the observations and interviews before April 11th. I would just try to do that if possible. And then, because if you still because you need to have all of that together before you can analyze and say, well, maybe I need one more interview, or maybe I need one more focus group, or maybe I need one more observation. And you still have time to do that. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you have what you need and you're good, right? But you need to have that cushion where if you need it, you have that time. And so, even though teachers are saying, "Oh yeah, you can come. We're working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday," but who knows what actually they're going to be doing, and who knows if they know what they're going to be doing. So, I've seen it. I'm not, I have seen these things happen where, Holy Week is a wash pretty much. Yeah. So just be conscious of that. Plan your time accordingly. And, if you have a lot of work to do on cleaning up your literature and your method section, don't spend too much time on that now. I mean, you need to have this data collection. Pretty much, you need to dedicate the time that you need to get the information. So.
Okay.
All right, Diego. So we'll see then. Next week is normal. And when do we have our tutoring session next week?
Friday.
Friday. Okay. So
It's 11:30.
So I'll see you next week. Otherwise, unless you have some issues, we can discuss it.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.